Good evening, Littleton, and welcome to the Select Board meeting of February 12th, 2024. To start off the evening, we are in open session. We are going to be going into exec session and then coming back into open session. So at this time, Mr. Clerk, do you have a motion?
Move the Select Board vote to enter into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Sections 21A1, to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health, rather than professional competence of an individual, or to discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaints or charges brought against public officer, employee, staff member, or individual, police department, and fire department. The Select Board adjourned to executive session and will reconvene in open session after the executive session.
Second?
So moved by Mark, seconded by Matthew. Mark?
Aye.
Matthew?
Aye.
I'm aye as well. So we'll go into executive session. We'll be out as soon as we can, hopefully by 6:30 to start our open session. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm not aware with this, with the acceptance or the approval with the appointment tonight, whether that number goes down to one.
Yes.
It does,
Thank you, Leonard.
okay, thank you. We have one opening on the Permanent Municipal Building Committee, for Sustainability Committee, and 3 alternate citizen at large for the Transportation Advisory Council. Also like to remind everybody out there, if they would like to receive public notifications for the town, we can go and please go on to website www.littletonma.org/subscribe, and you can get community impacts, transportation, public health concerns, public safety, town meeting changes, town events. You'll be able to stay informed. Also, here we have a donation of $2,500 to the Littleton Elder and Human Services, COA, from the John C. Morrison and Eunice B. Morrison Charitable Foundation. And looking to accept the $2,500 to help during this challenging time. And it'll be proposed, the money will be expended $1,500 to Tread Fund and $1,000 to Outreach Gift Fund. And that would be it.
Great. Yeah, appreciate all the generosity, and the Morrison Foundation is always very generous. This is a change in our policy where the town administrator is able to accept those gifts without having to log down the meeting, frankly. But very, very appreciative of any and all donations we do get, so thank you to the Morrison Foundation, Family Foundation. All right, so next up, department updates. Michelle, you're up.
Good evening, Michelle Vibert, Human Resources Director. So tonight I would like to put in front of the board 2 requests for 2 new positions that we are trying to create. The first one is for, we met with the Personnel Advisory Committee on both. The first one is for a building custodian. This is more a generalized building custodian. We would have the flexibility to utilize them in any of our town buildings. And we would like to place it on grade 4 of compensation plan schedule A. The second one is for a seasonal laborer in the cemetery, and we are looking to place that again with the advisory recommendation from the Personnel Advisory Committee. We would like to place that on compensation plan schedule B2. Bless you. Schedule B2 as a seasonal laborer on grade 4.
Is that similar to what we do for highway?
So we do have a
Same
seasonal
grade?
laborer. It's on a different grade on that same schedule. So you have the seasonal laborer, then you have an engineering technician, and then you have a seasonal truck driver / laborer.
Okay. Any questions?
Nope.
I have no questions on the cemetery one. On the building custodian, originally the police department asked for this in their budget. This is moving it out of their budget into the town budget going forward. Is that the plan for this? Or is this something different as well?
So I would have to speak with Ryan on the actual budget mechanism, but the actual position is not solely for the police department at this time.
Yeah, so Mark, as we talked about on Super Saturday, so the idea of it is create an additional 10 hours for the police department specifically because it's a 24/7 operation, and with the unique needs that they have, this was something they were asked to supplement. With that said, I don't think we'll be using the person necessarily exclusively for the police department. If there are any other needs or backups for George, we hope we would be using this individual to help supplement or back up as necessary.
Good?
Yep.
Move the select board vote per the recommendation of the Personnel Advisory Committee to approve a revised job description for a building custodian and establish the building custodian position on grade 4 of compensation plan schedule A, permanent full and part-time employees.
Second?
Motion been moved by Mark, seconded by Matthew. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Great. Thank you very much.
Move the select board vote for the recommendation of the Personnel Advisory Committee to approve a revised job description for a seasonal laborer cemetery and establish seasonal laborer cemetery position on grade 4 of compensation plan schedule B2, temporary seasonal employees.
Second?
Moved by Mark, seconded by Matthew. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Also unanimous. Thank you very much. Michelle, you're still up there, all
I'm
right?
still up. All right, so next item is we are requesting the board to appoint Frances Daigle as our new health director. And per the employee handbook, any non-union employee being hired above step 3 does come in front of the board. Basically, the Board of Health, myself and a panel, we narrowed down the applicants from roughly 20 to about 4. We did first round of interviews, and out of that first round, we brought back 3, and from that, we have decided to move forward with Francis, and it was a unanimous decision by the Board of Health. We are looking to bring him in at grade 16, step 6. And I just want to give you did hand out his resume. So just to give you a little background, Francis is currently in the Leicester Regional Public Health Coalition. He does serve Health and Human Services. He has served as the Public Health Director there, and he has served in Lexington as a Department Assistant to the Director of the Health Department.
And Kimball's.
And Kimball. Yes.
Any questions?
No?
No.
Be good to get somebody on board.
Move the select board vote to appoint Francis Daigle as health director at grade 16, step 6.
Second?
Moved by Mark, seconded by Matthew. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, Steve? Do you want to make any announcements about the snow, or?
No. No. Leave that to the people on TV. If they're wrong, if they could be wrong, 50% of the time, and it's all good.
Keep the job?
I don't know, we'll see. It falls out of the sky, we push it off the street.
There you go.
Thank you, members of the board. Stephen Yowling, Director of Public Works. First item tonight is the Foster Street Phase 1, the roadway reconstruction and pedestrian improvement project. Approaching the finish line on the easement acquisition process, which truthfully started kind of the middle of last summer with property notifications, correspondence, ultimately through town meeting, then more correspondence back and forth with all the property owners, ultimately to the step here tonight to have the board approve and sign the order of taking for the easements. If this goes well, then I follow up with the property owners with more correspondence about the acquisition, the final acquisition of easements, and then they can either come in and receive their just compensation, or a few property owners have already indicated to donate easements necessary for this project. The project is tentatively scheduled to be advertised by Mass DOT the end of March, so kind of in the final stretch of this. So happy to answer any questions board may have.
Was there any significant change to your plan based on the change at town meeting?
No.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
Any questions?
So bidding in March and construction,
It's all goes through Mass DOT at that point, so it is possible you could see some mobilization and possibly like erosion control, some tree work, maybe some of the beginning utility work in the fall. Depends on how the bidding process goes and contracts go. Takes a little bit of time, like all these large-scale type projects. They just take time. But ultimately, you get a $7 million construction project that Federal Highway Administration's paying for, so.
Good?
Yep.
Take a motion.
move the select board vote to execute an order of taking for easements on Foster Street in accordance with the authority vested in it under Article 15 of the November 1st, 2023 special town meeting.
Second.
Moved by Mark, seconded by Matthew. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thanks very much. It's unanimous.
And the second portion of the Foster Street project is a dedication of parcel for the easements on a very small, like 1,000 square foot town-owned property, almost across from the old Stone Yard entrance, opposite side of the street. What this is just the town is in control of this parcel via title research. Was known as the Furbush parcel on the plan set, surrounded by the Route 2 state highway layout. Took a little research on council's end to confirm that it is a town-owned parcel, but it does require a couple of small easements. So the dedication just allows the project to move forward, since the board is the controlling
Care, custody, control.
Yeah, you control the parcel, so.
Okay. Sign that. Kind of just cleaning it up and dedicating it. And
Yeah, you just dedicate it for right-of-way purposes.
any issues with that? No. Based on his recommendation, accept the motion?
Which one are we looking, you've already done the vote on
This
that?
is 3E.
Yep, it's up. Is it, that's not on?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's 3E.
No, it's 3D2. It wasn't in the packet.
This is the dedication of the, do you have the parcel information?
Another copy.
Just so we can
Let's
formulate a
see,
motion.
so for the, actually, I've handed. Let's see.
Second column.
Steve, there wasn't, because this wasn't clear, you wanted it as a separate motion, so, so we were just dedicating the, so this is a separate parcel within this?
That's the town, everything in the order of taking is privately owned.
Okay,
That is for one of the two publicly owned pieces. I'll be in front of the, well, Maureen's actually gonna handle it with the Affordable Housing Trust on the Turkey Farm House. I couldn't time that out, that it was still privately owned.
right, but then, so if they've already voted then to do the takings, then this is inclusive of this, so I don't think it's
No, that's a separate
a
document.
separate document, then,
We need to vote on it separately and have it posted, duly posted? Or can we vote to authorize you guys to do it?
you can vote to authorize us to do it, but it's just, yeah. It just
think we
wasn't,
have
it
to
wasn't
sign
clear that you would, that's what.
We have to
okay,
sign
so-
it.
So, Steve, you gotta help us here. I don't know what you're asking. So, you have to. So, is it the, what's the specific parcel? Because we don't have a book and page on it.
I didn't bring any of that, of course. No, the book and page is ready.
Okay, so basically the select board would be authorizing,
Yep, the use of these two easements for this project.
so interest taken on the permanent utility easement
Yep, temporary construction.
and the temporary construction easement, as outlined under book 7551, page 414.
Yep, and according to these, the
So why
100%
don't you-
right
why
of
don't you
way.
read it?
Yep. So I mean, really, you could just read the, you want me to just read
Yeah,
it?
just read it.
So, I apologize for this, I sent it along, I'm not quite sure what happened here. Basically, it's the select board of the town of Littleton having care, custody, and control of a certain parcel of land in the town of Littleton identified below, hereby dedicate portions of said parcels for the, typo. It'll be for the Foster Street corridor project, stated below, plans entitled Mass Department of Transportation Plan and Profile Foster Street, bridge number L13-017 in the town of Littleton, Middlesex County, 100% submission right-of-way prepared by Fuss and O'Neill, dated October 21st, 2022, revised June 2nd, 2023, and recorded herewith Middlesex. So I'll get the book and page of that when it gets recorded. And then the parcel book and page is book 7551, page 414, and there are two easements on the property. There's a permanent utility easement of 99 square feet and a temporary construction easement of 127 square feet.
So moved.
Are you able to construct that, Ryan, or reconstruct that? If we-
I think
We're just saying we're moving the grant and easement on this
I mean,
municipal
Specified.
parcel.
Just on the,
Property is
Specified
red.
municipal parcel.
Okay.
sorry.
What he said. All right, motion made by Matthew,
Sure.
Seconded.
seconded by Garrett.
Yep.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, great, it's unanimous. So it's
pass this
3D2?
for seconds.
Isn't that, is that the second?
Yeah, because it's two, so there's 2 pages on each one of those, so. There's that.
Thanks,
Steve.
Steve,
Is
private
this,
taking, and there afterwards.
eventually
You
gonna
have
be
for-
to get Grimes? And
So,
the driveway across the street more aligned, is that the idea, or?
so it's actually, this project is actually realigning the end of Grimes Lane and reconfiguring the stop arms for the train. So instead of Grimes kind of coming out like this, it's gonna more tee up. So that's a lot of the easements on what was the Turkey Farm Builders property, now the Affordable Housing Trust, is to realign that road a little bit.
So it'll like cut off that corner?
Yep.
A little bit.
Yep, so you don't end up smack in the middle of the train tracks.
Always a good thing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Again, I apologize for the confusion.
We got that. All good, thanks, Steve. Then you have the landfill, Fuss O'Neill.
Yep, the last item for me tonight is just continuing a contract with Ty and Bond for environmental services for the post-closure monitoring at the landfill on Spectacle Pond Road. This carries us through into the summer to 3 more rounds of gas monitoring. They do groundwater samples, surface water samples, a lot of correspondence with DEP. So a lot of this was kind of left to the side through the years, so we're playing a little bit of catch up. But again, this is just continuing the ongoing efforts.
All right. Any questions? No.
My question just on, is it for fiscal year '24 or does it go into '25?
This contract will go into fiscal year '25.
And the funding sources, we have our operating budget set aside for monies that would be for FY '24 and into FY '25 that we've also budgeted for.
I'm just asking for the motion if it should say 24 or 25 or both.
Yeah, I think you said both, and I think that's a friendly amendment, so to add in both.
Move the select board vote to authorize DPW Director Steve Yonley to execute a contract with Time Bond for $158,400 for environmental consulting services for FY '24-25 landfill post-closure compliance.
Second.
Motion made by Mark, seconded by Matthew. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Hi.
It's unanimous, thank you. Thanks,
Very
Steve.
good. Thank you.
Have a good night. Don't stay up late.
We'll group up tomorrow, because I still got to get some of the other pieces. Yeah, that's,
Just for the benefit of Sue, I would say that on page 124, I'm sorry, page 24 of our packet is that language Steve was
if he
referencing.
needs to reference it, thank
So
you.
it was in
Yes,
there, yeah.
yes, thank you.
I missed it.
All right. Let's see. So next up, we're scheduled to have public input and Andrew, do you mind if I push you out just for a minute? Okay, thank you. We asked you to stay and then we bump you. Mr. Gray's here and I just don't want to keep you all night, so if you'd want to come to the podium and just take something out of it. You guys okay with me taking something out of it?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. You jump in a
Good
5B.
evening. I'm Dan Gray, the General Manager with Patriot. I've been invited here tonight to discuss what we can do with the $20,000 commitment we made about 5 years ago, with all the help the town gave us with some of our tax advantages, and as we made significant investments. So I'm asking for help and input on what to do with those funds.
Thank you.
What is the, so, yeah, so what, I guess, what is the what is the status of the funds? Are they in your hand?
In my wallet. The funds are available.
Yeah.
The console of his car.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We're working it over right now.
So if I may, Mr. Chair, so thank you for coming, and sorry to, so when we send out a letter like this, we had been talking a lot about HCA's, and this gave us a reminder to take a look through some of the pieces, and this is something that through Patriot, we were reminded that was the payment, well, we had the check, and I think actually the goal here in terms of the number of employees was 50 new jobs, and the latest report is 92, and I think you're going to be looking over even over 100, so, which is great news. So
Yes, we've exceeded all of our goals. We've invested, combined with our parent company and some other shareholders. The location has about $80 million invested in the last 5 years. We'll exceed 100 employees. We think we'll top out about 110. And that's essentially where we're going to kind of max out the business, because there's really not enough room there to do much more than we are. So it's been very successful. The spur was added on to reduce transport costs on residents, so it's worked out pretty well.
Right, so it's great news to hear, and so as part of the TIF, we specifically said that, be earmarked for a particular project or projects to be agreed upon by the company. And this is stated, it says Board of Selectmen, and now we're the Select Board, so it gives you a sense of, it's been a while since we've made that change, so just some thoughts for you. We talked a little bit about maybe we're in the process of building tennis courts, so there's going to be costs associated with that. It's a possibility, not too far away from where your plant is. And then another thought is we're about to break ground on our new senior center, and we're looking for contributions for that. There's different, we're working with contributors for different things such as exercise equipment, or to name a room after a particular person, entity, you name it. So those are at least two things that spring to mind. But it is at the discretion of the board as to what else, or one of the ideas you might have.
Just another idea I had, just because of going through the budget process and with the Historical Society coming forward asking for money for the 250th anniversary of Patriots Day, Patriot beverage. I thought there might be an opportunity to get at least a portion of it.
That's good. That's really
as a donation from Patriot Beverage to sponsor or something like that for the Patriots Day event in 2025.
Yeah, that's
just a thought.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And some product as well.
Ooh, even better.
Yeah. So that would certainly would be something that we could make arrangements with. Sure.
Just a thought. Dan, would you be open to splitting it up? So if we chose to,
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't know this, we actually currently donate a building to the school, the high school, for the robotics team, which we have been for 5 years, and we're going to continue to do that. That's a pretty great story, not for us, but so much for the robotics team. They've done an excellent job.
they have, yeah.
So I think that we've got our involvement around the school system. So maybe we don't want to go there. We want to go somewhere else as it relates to where we can help. Splitting it up is absolutely fine. I think it's a case where the town will know what the priorities are before I would. So I could take your guidance, that whatever works.
Appreciate that. Important to note that among the many employees that you've added, there's I know of two at least that are Littleton residents that work at the plant as well. So that's a nice success story as well. So it's been a great corporate citizen. We appreciate it.
Yes, that's our goal.
And I know several organizations reach out to you for donations for their events. Though you support the road race every year and mini golf and a lot of things in town, and we're very grateful for all of that.
Yeah.
I guess the only other thing to consider would be some of the items that we were discussing at the Super Saturday that we're short on. And I'm trying to think if it's not personnel issue. If it's not personnel items, what other? I know the tennis courts is a good one, but what other things were we debating?
I think we're finding money, really when you're thinking about this, you want to be thinking about it as a one-time type thing. So that's, I think, Chuck's idea about the contribution to the 250th anniversary of Patriots Day. Certainly, that would fit. Let's see. The things I think that and again, the senior center where there are, what's nice about that is that, then Patriot Beverage would be probably getting their name on a plaque for something so they can at least be recognized for this, and within the community, which I think something, there's a nice.
What about, I know like Cloverdale, the ADA path and things, that's at least partially funded by a grant and partially by offsets from highway, but I assume there's going to be funds we have to expend. That might be something.
Right. One of the things
could also be a nice opportunity.
We talked this morning that Amy brought up when we had our staff meeting. Amy also mentioned there's a potential development of a parking lot do you remember the parcel? and that's a possibility as well. That we, because, we sort of said, all right, well, if we're going to get $20,000 from Patriot Beverage, does staff have any other ideas as to what else they would want to use it as? So that's another possibility. I'm not sure specifically what the cost would be, but, we could put it under the conservation umbrella as well.
I do think the Patriots Day is a great idea. That's a no-brainer in my mind.
I mean, we can make it as clean as split it down the middle, and I think the ask from the Historical Society of the Select Board was $10,000, right?
Right?
Yeah,
And then $10,000 towards like the senior center, to your point, Ryan, where there is some opportunity to get some recognition for Patriot
Sure.
at the new facility.
And we can even work with you too, if you wanted to make a contribution toward a specific element of the building. So, we can work with you on that as well, if that's your inclination.
I mean, we would continue, beyond this as well. I mean, whatever we decide to do, we're still expanding some of our involvement.
So, great.
Thanks, Dan.
Spent a lot of time trying to grow the business. Now we can work on some other things.
great. Do we need a motion?
That's what I did. Is that the way we want to go? Do you want to just?
I think that's fine. If
Split
you
the
leave
baby
it
down the
to $10,000 for Patriots Day and $10,000 towards the senior center as a contribution to the senior center.
Let Liz and EHS decide on what they want to, or at least propose what they want.
Yeah, in collaboration.
Yeah, in
Yeah,
collaboration with Patriot, sure.
Yeah,
Sure, I think
okay.
that's great. That's great suggestions.
Do you want that in the form of a motion?
I think it would help, yeah, just that it would help the place, yeah.
You're on your own.
Yeah.
Move the select board, okay. Move the select board, split the HCA payment of $20,000 from Patriot Beverage between Patriots Day and support for the new senior center,
50-50.
50/50.
Second.
Moved by Mark, seconded by Matthew. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Dan, thank you very much for
Thank
everything.
you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Somebody reach out to me?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Have a good night. All right, we'll go back to public input. Thanks for your patience, Andrew.
Good evening, everybody. Andrew Samarco here tonight for the Open Space and Recreation Plan Committee. Thank you, first of all, for the money for Patriots Day from the Historical Commission.
Look at him just switching hats back there.
So I just wanted to give the board an update on the Open Space and Recreation Plan for 2024. The final draft has been completed. It's now out, and it's linked on the town website, and we're inviting the public, boards, committees, anybody in town to review it and submit public comment, letters of support, suggestions, whatever you like. We just ask that you get those in by the 15th of March, but we're excited and glad to have this done and look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
If I could, Mr. Chair, this was something that came up also at our staff meeting today, knowing that this is out there. So we had spoken with Alicia about the potential of coming back to you, to the board, just to get a presentation and an update on what, on the plan itself. And I know that she's been kicking that off with other committees to get input, and which is great. But I think also, I believe a presentation was made to the planning board as well.
I believe one is or has been, yes.
Okay. So just, but depending on if the board would want to get that update, we can do that as well. Or, per Andrew's suggestion, we can go out, do that, take a look at it and offer any other feedback through the mechanism on the website. So does the board have any thoughts on what they want to do on that?
I like the presentation idea just because it gives folks at home more of an opportunity
Yeah.
to see the process as well.
And it helps us to be advocates for it as well, I think, just hearing it and being able to convey it. So if we could do that,
I agree.
I think that.
Yeah.
And I think they wanted, correct me if I'm wrong, but you wanted a official endorsement letter from the select board as well.
That would be great.
So, it would be good to get that on the agenda.
And I think too, like, it would be difficult to give an endorsement if you hadn't seen the presentation. I think that's
two together.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. So just,
Good idea.
so.
It's only fair.
If, as I've reviewed the plan, I've made notation throughout, there's a number of areas where there is a financial investment that is part of the plan, and rightfully so, I'm not criticizing that. So I don't know if that is if you want to have a meeting with the FinCom, to have a separate meeting with that, or if you would just want to have it, straight up just with the select board. I'm just
Pleasure of the board.
throwing that
I
out
mean,
there.
I think we should evaluate the plan on its merits and then start worrying about the financial impact as those things appear, because they're not all going to happen next year, right? I mean,
Right. Oh, no,
yeah,
absolutely.
I think we should, those should be part of the process, the budget process, along with everything else.
Fair
And
enough.
It's fantastic that we have advance warning about some of them if they're big ticket items and we know they're 3 or 4 years away. That's great.
Understood. Thank you.
That's my opinion.
I agree.
Consensus on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we can
Thanks,
put that on for the February 26th meeting, which then give you enough time. I think it was the March 15th?
March 15th. Yeah.
Yep, so
Yeah,
we'll give you
it's-
enough time to,
Couple weeks, yeah.
The Ides of March.
Great.
there you go.
Thanks much.
Thank you.
Beware.
Thank you.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thanks again, Andrew.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Spread the word about the Patriots Day.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
All right, any other public input? Health guys. All right, member updates. Want to start?
Sure. So I met with Michelle Liebert about a week and a half ago. We talked about the select board has a bunch of HR policies. There's HR policies separate, and they're also in the handbook. And we're to formulate a plan for how to update those and get down to 1 copy rather than 2 or 3, and try and get those done in the next few months. So expect a lot of policies coming forward for that. I was at the planning board meeting 2 weeks ago, I guess, and there was a discussion of the MBTA communities, and a potential joint meeting was tentatively scheduled. I don't know what the exact plan is for that. Towards the end of February to work together on what we should be zoning and how we should be going forward with that, so.
Can I just add to what Mark said too? One of the things they're looking to do is to do a public information session. One of the complaints during the last cycle we went through is that there wasn't enough of that, interaction with the community, keeping them updated. So it looks, I think, later this month, they're looking to have that meeting, as well as inviting some of the other property owners in the area and to begin to engage with them in terms of what, whether or not they'd be willing to be rezoned, and what their feelings are on the MBTA communities piece. So, so that's just something to, additive, and will be probably something we would post as a select board meeting to invite you to that.
That meeting that you're referencing from the planning board, I think was the 22nd of March.
Yes.
Was it February or 22nd?
It's February 22nd.
February
February.
22nd.
Right.
Yep, that's right.
I had some Marches in my head.
That's, there you go. So,
February 22nd, Thursday, February
yes.
22nd. Good? Thank you.
Nothing for me today.
Okay, thank you. Karen?
The Orchard Committee held a tour for interested parties who are potentially responding to the RFI. That was on Thursday and Saturday. Were you at Saturday?
I wasn't Saturday now. I guess I do have an update.
Yeah, so I attended Thursdays. We had a good turnout with some great folks with great questions and lots of good interest. And that was, I think there were somewhere around 7 parties on Thursday. And then Saturday,
There was probably a dozen parties
Cool.
showed up on Saturday, and it was a wide range from private individuals to organizations,
nonprofits.
nonprofits, groups, people who were farmers who
For-profits.
wanted to buy an orchard. So
Yep, so lots of...
a lot of interest, actually.
Yeah,
quite-
it was really encouraging.
Yep.
20 entities.
Yeah.
A lot more than we've ever gotten from an RFP in the past.
That's
so.
great.
Although I think 1 or 2 of those may have been folks that came Thursday and
That
Saturday. So we
could
might be
be,
double
yeah.
counting a couple, but generally speaking, a really good turnout. And work continues. And the RFI closes on March 1st. So after that, we'll be reviewing those responses and getting a better feel for viable candidates and how we want to move forward with the RFP process.
And for anyone that's looking for that information on our website, it's on
It's
the
on the,
select board.
no, it's on the
Orchard.
Dog Orchard
Yep.
Boards and Committees page. It's
Boards
on
and
there.
committees, okay.
Everything's
The
there.
work, okay,
The
yeah,
RFI, amendments, updates on tours, that kind of thing.
great,
Everything.
excellent. I wonder if we could partner with like the History Channel or Discovery Channel or something, and they could do like a reality TV show.
I mean, now we just
I-
need to parlay that
wasn't-
into some active agriculture and
Didn't
we'd be
Matt
all
Damon do like
set.
I Own a Zoo or something like that? That we could do like I Own an Orchard,
Some sort of reality show where
Not, right?
they're doing the farming.
make it work. That's awesome, thanks,
Yeah.
Carol. Couple of updates. Veterans Breakfast, just attended a Veterans Breakfast. It's always good to get out there and kind of hear what's going on. The thing that I most wanted to share with everybody was some of the work that we're doing to look at the tax impact of our seniors. Actually had some proactive questions about that, and which is good because more and more people are starting to learn about what programs are available. So they're asking questions, so I was encouraged by that. Spoke with some of the neighbors on Shattuck Street, and I actually met with Steve Yonley earlier today to talk about the possibility of doing, even if it's just a walk on Shattuck Street, just to talk to them about what's going to happen to Shattuck Street. Is there going to be some kind of a traffic study or do something to look at? Is that going to be a dead end? Is it going to be two-way? Is it going to be one-way? So some of those neighbors are revisiting that and asking what's going on. So I asked Steve if we could, schedule some time. And he said, as soon as the weather changes, as soon as it gets a little warmer out, maybe we could just do something on the street. So our folks know about that as it comes closer. Also, want to mention anything about today's meeting about the MBTA?
Yeah, whatever.
Just had some interaction with a potential developer that would be able to help us to meet our MBTA communities goal. So as that, I think that's going to be part of the meeting on the 22nd with the planning board. So it's just kind of very preliminary, but it's encouraging to see that there's folks that have other ideas.
Yeah.
So,
That's great.
Great.
yeah.
On the property tax front, I don't know if the there's, we get all those emails from MMA and whatnot. The MSA is holding a property tax programs for low income, I don't know what the rest of it is, but they're talking about like the abatement for the tax.
MSA is doing it?
MSA on Friday, March 8th at noon. It's one of the webinars, so I signed up for it. I don't know if others are doing it as well. So,
If you have it handy, you want to send the link?
yeah, I'll send you the link.
Appreciate it. That's it for member updates. So moving along, we've got select board and town administrator updates. Over to that side of the table.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bard isn't here yet, but he will be here by 7:30. I
That's
guarantee
because
that.
the meeting's being run very efficiently.
Very, very efficiently,
We can move forward. I mean,
without a doubt.
Do we want to try to do
Should we
something?
skip to, and should we just take another item out of order then?
Sure, that'd be great.
We
If
have,
you want to, if you want to go
Can I
ahead.
just give one quick update on 36 King Street? So
sorry, yes.
our staff's been meeting actively with our OPM and designer, giving feedback about building access to our key fob system, IT. Also been talking with them. They've been engaging with the schools and Parks and Recreation in terms of the overall vision of the building. They've already started. I know one of the things that we talked about with the original or the vision we were looking at in May of last year at town meeting, there was a conference space on the first floor. I think the schools and Parks and Rec are already looking to back out of that. So I think there's some other savings that they are going to continue to want to employ and work with PMBC to, again, try to establish a sound scope of work that then would be what they'll go forward with. But we're already seeing some things being sort of scaled back and revised. So it's nice as we start to get down in those details and certain real needs and things that they really want to have in there, and then other things that maybe they can pass on. So it's a continued dialogue, and I just wanted to keep everybody updated. That conversation is going on.
Going down the same path, if I may, the performing arts area, the stage, the auditorium, I guess you call it, is there any plan to, they're not going to disturb that, are they?
Right. So there was, that was an example, right, of what, the stage, it has got that curvature to it. So there was some question about like, okay, well, if we're reusing it for Parks and Rec, I think they were looking at it and saying, okay, well, maybe we should be looking to cut off the front. The problem with that is that then it stops its use as a performing arts area. And so I think that the vision right now is that it stays as it is, so that you would be able to continue to use it in that manner. So there are a lot of compromises that have to be made within this, and with that, sometimes the best step is to take no step at all. So, but the idea at this point is to keep it the
I
same.
like the no-step approach in this instance.
Yeah.
I think it would get a lot of use as it.
Yeah, that was and it's what it's been used for before.
Right.
And right.
And it was, I mean, it sounds good. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
nice performing arts space. Thank you. Any other questions or anything, or any of the big projects? I guess I didn't hit on any of them. If we, I guess the orchard, yeah, thank you. All right. So, not quite at 7:30. Next up would be Dan Gray. What are you thinking? Do you want to?
Stipend policy?
Yeah, I'm just looking to see with Dan here and Mike, Board of Health. Nothing specific, huh? Yeah, stipend policy.
Okay, so I can't take credit for this. Daryl did most of the work. So if you remember at town meeting last year, it was voted to eliminate the stipends until we put in a policy. This is a suggestion on a policy that we could use. It goes beyond just offering the select board stipends. It's basically, we'd have to decide if we want to limit it or how, but the way it's written, it's basically all elected boards are eligible for stipends. And the select board stipends the chairs get a higher stipend than the general member, and the select board gets a higher stipend because we meet way more frequently than other boards. So just going through and doing the math, there's 51 elected positions in town currently. That's counting light and water as one, not two. So
51 people or positions?
51 positions.
Okay.
Is it counting
So-
just water? So it's not counting light?
It's not counting, it's
right.
counting one, yes, so.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to speak to this at all, Daryl, so.
And technically, I don't think at town meeting, the stipend was removed. It was the funding mechanism for the
Funding.
stipend.
So, as Darrell Baker, Grist Mill Road, thank you for the record. So I was the one that obviously brought the motion before town meeting, and, I'm a big believer in policy-driven things here, given my time on the school committee there. The purpose of why I drafted it this way, I stole a lot of it from another town's piece here. It takes the emotional argument out about what we're trying to do. It really just starts laying out some criteria for it there, and defines it. It's an opt-in program, not an opt-out, so that we don't get in a situation where you have to take a stipend and then donate it back, things like that. Some things to consider, it's written in a way that it's define some criteria. If you want to choose something like regulatory boards or some subset of boards, it's imperative that you define what is your criteria for subsetting it. in terms of both fairness to everybody else, it eliminates boards voting themselves stipends, and it puts it right out on the table, what the purpose is here. I presented this to Mark. This is something I support, and if it went forward at town meeting, I would be raising my hand and saying, yes, I understand what the stipend's for and why you're granting it. And there. It also puts the onus on you that if you're making trade-offs in the budget, you putting the stipends on that, or you're cutting services elsewhere, right? It just puts it out there in the front. It's not hidden behind, a line item in a budget there. And the only other thing that might want a little tweaking on the language is theirs was based on the fiscal year, but all of our boards really run elected years, and I didn't quite tweak the language to say that, at the end of your elected year, before the election, you would put in for your stipend. And then I think that would keep it aligned with there would be no calculating, which part of which fiscal year and prorating, things like that. When you appoint somebody, that would become their effective date, if it's an interim position. Anyway, I present that to Mark to present to the board is something that I think could give you a leg up on drafting a policy that would meet the needs of where you as a board, want to be with positions, and me as a town taxpayer in my position on the stipends.
Awesome. Thanks for this. A lot of work.
Appreciate it.
So, as I said, Daryl did most of the work after my complaining about needing help writing this policy, so thank you, Daryl, for all the help. There are 51 positions of I believe there were, I forget the number of boards, I could do the math. There must be 11 boards, 9 5-member boards, and 2 3-member boards. So if you were to give $1,000 stipend, it would be 51 plus 500 for the chair, an extra 500 for the chair of those boards. So that's an extra $5,000. You're roughly at the $60,000 mark to give $1,000 stipend to all board members as the basis.
Less people who are on more than one board.
60 is about the cap,
Yeah.
about the max. So just for budgetary purposes, if you were thinking that. And that would putting back towards the $2,000 stipend that we were receiving before. So
I wonder if the elected criteria is fine, but a bit arbitrary. I would think that it would be more fair to base it on how many times, on average, the board meets. I mean, there may very well be elected boards that meet less frequently than appointed boards. FinCom meets much more frequently than Clean Lakes, for example, right?
Well, like the 2 3-member boards are like the trust funds, which basically, I believe, meet mainly for scholarship purposes, from what I could tell, and Cemetery Commission. So I didn't actually spend a lot of time researching how frequently boards met. It's not something easy to do when there's so many boards, right? You could do regulatory boards. We could pick the criteria if you wanted to. I haven't. This was a first stab, and we can decide if there's a different criteria we want to use, or it gets harder if you want to say, well, FinCom's deserving, but not Clean Lakes, because then you're just like, how are you splitting between, what's the criteria for one, not the other?
It's how many minutes you've actually submitted and uploaded to the website. In a calendar year. That determines what you get for the next calendar year. Because Diane Curry will be happy with that.
That criteria?
Yeah, she will, because people will absolutely get their minutes in.
It's true.
Just one comment. The draft from Brookfield had elected and appointed boards.
Mm-hmm.
I just made it elected boards, but again, it just depends on what the criteria you
Yeah.
want to
It's
define.
a great
No,
jumping off
It is
point.
really great.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to reconcile the time that FinCom spends versus the time that, and I don't want to pick on Clean Lakes. They deserve it as much as
Even
anyone.
Board of Assessors or any other
Sure,
elected board, but how often do they meet, right?
right. That's all I'm
Yes.
saying is that, if
So
we're,
if we want to define a different criteria, I can do some research on what that criteria, I just don't know what.
as long as it's easy to figure, like you said, we
Yeah.
can't pick something that's so opaque that we can't figure it out each year.
Right.
I think it's worth further conversations and kind of tweaking and, you know, noodling around a little bit. And
Yeah, I had the same concern that there's folks who are devoting a lot of time to the town and incurring expenses, let's be honest, who would not be eligible for the stipend, and there are other positions in there that perhaps are not putting,
as taxing.
yes, not as time consuming that would be. So I think I would think some sort of meeting criteria or regulatory was a good thought. I had a couple of questions just in terms of mechanics. Members who are appointed, although the position is typically elected, are they eligible?
It would be prorated.
Okay, and then would they get their stipend based on an election calendar or based on when they took
I would assume
the
election.
position, or, so they
Everybody
would
gets
be
it.
prorated up until the election year, and then it would be,
Because that's when their seat would get turned or
Right.
refreshed. Also, what about, we should figure out what to do with alternative members, like for the ZBA. Do they get a stipend or not? I'm not sure. I don't know how often they need to be on the board and sitting in meetings.
and I do think it merits further discussion about the opt-out versus opt-in. I think there's pros and cons on both sides. I understand that some folks don't want the stipend and that it creates a headache to have to refuse it. I think on the other hand, it creates pressure, or it could be construed as creating pressure on folks to not accept the stipend. And to me, the stipend does have the potential to be leveling the playing field a little bit in terms of who has the bandwidth to be able to run for office or to serve in these positions. So I'm a little wary of that in terms of, there's a perceived disincentive to accept the stipend, and that is counterproductive to some of the policy goals of creating the stipend in the first place.
That's a good point. I mean,
Do you know how many regulatory boards there are?
I do not. No.
I'm curious if it's more or less than the elected.
I mean, even with regulatory boards, Board of Health, before the pandemic, the Board of Health met on a pretty regular schedule. During the pandemic, it was pretty every day.
When were they not meeting was the
Yeah.
question.
So, I mean, it's tough to quantify, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think there's not going to be a perfect way of figuring this out.
Yeah. Great jumping off point.
Yes.
It definitely
Very
gives us
much so.
opportunities for more conversations. We can have conversations with other board members and other commissions and that kind of thing. So
That's a good idea.
I think it opens the door for us, and it definitely starts the conversation. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank
I'll
you.
look into some of these other questions and see if we can refine it for next meeting.
I can help you with a little looking at like meeting frequency too, because I'm curious about that as well.
Okay, thank you.
I'll email you.
One thing, Mr. Chair, just to say, it's great you're having this conversation, but I would say to you that if you're going to come to terms with this, to come to terms with it quicker, because we've already had our budget meetings,
Right.
and we still, understanding what the implications of this, 51 separate.
I agree with you on a lot of that, but we can vote the policy and vote no funding for it too, so.
No, I know, no, my presumption is that
Yeah.
you would be funding, that if you were funding it, it's just to say that we need to then, accordingly.
I don't think it's fair to add this to this year, this
No,
fiscal
I mean, I
year.
think we've been going through this budget
Yes.
process under the
Right.
assumption that it's not.
Yes.
To Daryl's
agreed,
point,
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
I
you got to
think-
take a stipend now? Did you include the school committee? That was one of the...
School committee was
okay,
one, yeah.
Good. All right.
Great.
Good stuff. Thank you for bringing it forward. Thank you, Daryl.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Bard has arrived, and thank you, Mr. Bard. If it's okay, if we just want to, real quick, and I'm not sure whether Mr. Vance is here, or anyone is here for the entertainment license amendment? Okay. All right, if there's really no one else there. Mr. Bard, if you want to come up, please? Little background. I met Mr. Bard through other professionals that had utilized his services when I was in another community, and Mr. Bard was able to help when I was in the city of Gloucester with a power purchase agreement for wind turbines for renewable energy that basically every municipal-owned building was directly powered as a result of that. And it was any excess on the grid, there was a cash payment coming back to the city. So over the course of the life of the power purchase agreement, it was going to save it was in the process of saving the city $20 million, which is a significant thing. Moving on, had used Bar Drake it with a larger project in which we were able to take all of our energy bills and our costs and direct access. We went not with National Grid, but with a renewable energy project that I think was in central Mass or something like that. And but that has resulted in some significant savings over the course of years there. Great wealth of knowledge, great resource to go to. So I gave Mr. Bard a brief 10,000-foot overview of our discussions, understanding, and how it evolved from originally from looking at a grant position for going across the board to looking at more of a sustainable grant manager or anything like that. But also, Mr. Bard can also potentially talk about anything that's out there that we may be wanting to take advantage of or have our eye on. But one of the big things that we're all aware here, I have never worked with with such an entity, but we've got a municipal light department here. And it's something that Mr. Bard is more familiar with that. I've never worked with one until coming here with Littleton. So I'll stop talking and I'll turn it over to Mr. Bard.
Thanks, Jim.
Sure.
So I'm the founder and CEO of Lee Energy Group. We started in energy back in 2007, started our own company in 2009, and been doing energy supply procurement, and then got into renewable energy projects in 2011. So the bulk of our clientele is municipal, state, and federal agencies. We still do, a decent amount of work in the private sector, but mostly with the public sector. Some of our largest clients are Worcester State University, Quinsigamond Community College, Worcester Housing Authority, and now we're doing some engagement for Boston Housing Authority. So our goal is to go in and just find out what the goals are of the institution, is to try to figure out what they're trying to do, drive energy costs down, drive sustainable energy projects. We got a cool little project we did for the town of Amherst. They'd gone through 2 solar projects on a landfill. They both went south. One was a massive lawsuit, one was a bankruptcy. And so we resurrected the one project out of bankruptcy court, got it permitted and sold off to a developer, and now that landfill is producing about, I think, $80,000 a year in revenue to the town, and then in a land lease and over $60,000 a year in energy savings. So it's just a matter of what the community or the client really wants to get accomplished, and figuring out the rules that the utilities or the municipal light department have put in place. So we do work with municipal light departments. There are some challenges with them because they're the controller of the territory, but a lot of them are open to renewable energy and to do better things for the environment. And you guys being a green community, I'm hopeful that that's their philosophy also. But I've not talked to anybody in Littleton. We're doing a project in Danvers, which is Danvers Municipal Light. Right now, is a solar project we're looking to build for a private institution. They seem open, so, I'm hopeful, but you guys probably know much better than I do, and I'll just open it up to, questions or thoughts or what you guys are thinking about trying to accomplish here in Littleton.
You want to start, because you're...
Sure, so we got grants from, on earmark from the state, we put solar panels on this building. We're talking about solar panels on the senior center, which are the only, I believe those are only 2 municipal solar, well, there's a few on the light and water building, but there's really no municipal solar in town. We're talking about having to put a new roof on our high school, and it would be nice to investigate whether we should do solar panels or things like that on there. At one point, I don't know, what was it, 5 or 10 years ago, there was talk about putting solar panels on over the transfers at the dump, and that fell through. I'm not sure exactly why, but we need to, start doing more green things in town, and we need to figure out how to fund them, how to do, like when we're looking for new, outside of just going green energy, we also need to figure out ways to reduce our energy footprint, like when we're replacing the HVAC units, are we looking at heat pumps or things like that? Or we looked at geothermal and things like that for when we're building the senior center, and we're told that the payback was outrageously long. So we haven't done anything like that, but we need to be heading that way. So, any information we can get on what we should be doing or how we can get funding sources for these and things like that would be useful.
I think one of the challenges with the ROI is the rate that we pay for the energy that we're purchasing is pretty low, and to look at that ROI, we need to make a decision whether or not we do it because we feel it's the right thing to do, not necessarily because we get the return on investment. But we also have to look at what the replacement cost is and all that kind of stuff. So
But apart from just purchasing energy, I think Mark's point is there could very well be a grant to put a more, efficient roof on the high school, or, rain collection. I don't know what it is, but it feels like the money's out there right now, and we're leaving money on the table. But I don't know if that's the case or not.
Yeah, I mean, those are all great points, and I would agree with all of them. So it's just a matter of, what you're trying to accomplish. I think from what I saw before, you guys are using roughly like 3 million kilowatt hours. So that's, if you're looking at solar from a megawatt perspective, that's probably 2 megawatts. So it's equivalent of probably 10 acres of solar. And roofs are a little different because, they're designed differently. It's just a matter of how you structure it and then who's going to own it. Typically, municipal light departments don't want third parties to come in and own solar and sell solar or sell energy to their customers. And that's their right, and that's why they've been around, and that's why they can charge lower rates of energy. But a lot of times, there's a benefit to them, and there's a benefit to, the municipal client or the private institution in the town. Because slowly over time, all these municipal light departments are going to eventually have to get to 100% clean energy. I think it's by 2050. So they can't do it all on their own. So there's a way that maybe there's different partnerships. And with the new Inflation Reduction Act under President Biden, before nonprofits or state agencies couldn't get any investment tax credits because you guys are tax exempt. Where now, I think it's 25.5%. So let's just argument's sake, if the solar project was $1 million, the town could get back $250,000 if they own that solar project. Now, the negative is you don't get that 5-year accelerated depreciation, which is almost as valuable as that $250,000 investment tax credit that you would get reimbursed. So there might be ways of structuring a private-public partnership where the institution could take that 5-year accelerated depreciation and give value back to the town of Littleton. So then at some point, you're going to get free electricity. Because once that loan is paid off, that debt is paid off on the solar project that the town of Littleton has paid down, now for the next 20, 30, 40 years, you get free electricity. And solar panels are typically warranted for 25 years. And there's solar panels that are out there that are 30, 35 years. They degrade typically 0.25% to 0.5% a year. So, in 10 years, that's not a lot. In 20 years, it's still not a lot. So they're still producing a lot of electricity.
Yeah.
And if the technology got really, better and faster, then you would replace those panels with the newer panels. You just do it the ROI. All right, does it make sense for me to replace, 5,000 panels on a roof and sell them on the secondary market and put new ones up? That's an easy math calculation. That's not hard to figure out. But it's just a matter of, how to have the meeting of the mind with Littleton, Electric Light. I call them municipal light departments, but Littleton Electric Light, and you guys have water also. So it's just having that conversation, and there's battery storage, and a lot of these electric light departments, they have real concerns about their capacity and demand charges, because those can be severe, and that's what battery storage can offset those costs. So if you, in the state of Massachusetts, I think it's at 0.5 megawatt, it's mandated that you put a battery in. So, and that is what that's really for, is when you need energy at the worst times of the day, is you draw from the battery, not from the circuit or the lines on the street, which causes, the problems. And that's causes, typically the brownouts or the blackouts. So again, it's just having the conversation with the municipal light department to say, what's going to benefit you, but then what can benefit us as a municipality.
I know there's talk about putting batteries for peak demand shaving over at Parley Lumber.
Right.
But I don't know how they're planning on powering those batteries.
Is there, just out of curiosity, is there a standard for how the panels have improved year over year as far as efficiency? Or is it all over the place?
It's all over the place, but it's not, exponentially greater. It's
a few percent each year.
Right, a few percent. So it doesn't, to this point, here in 2024, I know of no developers or projects that are replacing panels that were 10 or 15 years old.
I think the other thing that we're really interested in is figuring out how to go about obtaining or chasing after this money in the grants, and or setting up a deal that you're talking about, a public-private venture, or talking to Littleton Electric Light about a solar farm in the landfill, and determining like what the payoff is, and what our risk is, and how do we start that process?
Right. I would say, getting that conversation going with Littleton Electric Light would be the first step, is just sitting down with them and just asking, what could we do? What's going to make, and again, it's what's in it for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Is it can't be one-sided, because then it's probably not going to go anywhere. But if they see the value, because they're getting pressure from the state to green their portfolio, and I don't know how much renewable energy they have in their portfolio for all the residents here. I'm sure they probably have some fossil fuel supply in their portfolio, and they have probably some hydro, maybe some nuclear. So they have to figure out how, over time, they have to slowly get rid of their fossil fuel and get renewables. Well, if there's renewables in town, that should go towards their 100% goal. So I would say, you'd want to go there first and have that conversation. There is grant money out there. It is competitive. I mean, everybody's chasing that free money. But I've got lots of municipalities that have received, millions of dollars of grant funding to fund, whether it be renewable, whether it be energy efficiency, LED lighting. Mark, you talked about geothermal. It is expensive, but it's a really efficient technology. And again, at the end of the day, to what you said, it's not all about ROI. So if it's a technology that might be a little bit expensive, but we see a path to free energy, sometimes, you have to bite that bullet and say, we're doing it for our future generations.
It's a different kind of investment, yeah.
And to me, I'm a big renewable energy guy. We need fossil fuels now for the transition, but there should be a point in time where we won't need fossil fuels. but it can't be done overnight, and you have that longer payback. And you have to understand that. Solar, you know, if it's a private entity, solar payback is 3 to 5 years. If you can get the 30% investment tax credit, and nonprofits, you guys, for whatever reason, they reduced it to 25 and a half. You should have been at 35, not 25. But the private sector gets 30, and then they get their 5-year accelerated depreciation, and those paybacks are, you know, 3 to 5 years. And it's free energy, you know, from that point on. It depends on how they structure it. They might amortize it over a longer time period, but the economics and the dollars show a 3 to 5 year payback.
So in most of the businesses, or most of the municipalities you work with, a commercial entity owns the solar panels and feeds back to, then effectively the town owns the roof, a commercial entity owns the panels, and then they share the profit basically from the solar.
So in a National Grid or Eversource territory, because that's predominantly what I work in. I did one in Westfield gas and electric territory, and that was a little different. But if it's in National Grid, we'll take Drake it for the example. That solar system that's on a town property, the town would get the rent off that roof. They might get some tax revenue off of it too. Depending on how it's structured, the solar could go into the building and power the building. Most times it's not. Most times it goes to the circuit, and then National Grid, through their generation meter on the solar system, calculates how many kilowatt hours is generated, and then the developer, the owner of that system, gets what's called it used to be called a net metering credit. Now it's called an alternative on-bill credit, which is under the new SMART program, AOBCs, which is the acronym. And depends on who's owning it, who's going to get those revenues, and then who's going to get the credits for the solar power. If the power goes off-site, you don't get the solar energy in the school or the municipal building, which means you can't take credit for the solar energy. So just because they have solar, let's say the solar's on this roof. If it's not coming in here, it's going to Littleton Electric Light. The town really can't say that we have green energy powering this building, because ethically it's incorrect. So it depends how it's charged. If it's coming in here and you're getting the environmental attributes, then you can say we have green energy powering this building. But there's a cost to it. So you have to, back to the ROI, you have to say, okay, is it worth me paying a little extra for green energy so I can say I have green energy, you know, either in this building or at your house? Same thing.
So, so my question was actually leading up to the second part is, so a commercial entity owns these, typically, it's not National Grid. Is there ever a case where the muni owns them, is supplying the power rather than the town? So the rules with the muni, at least with Littleton Electric, and I assume it's all the munis, is, like you said, they don't allow a third-party entity for the power. Like, I have solar panels on my roof, I have to own the solar panels, I can't lease them, like you can on the National Grid. Are there instances where the muni actually would own the power on the roof of a town entity or something, rather than, or the power generation capability?
So they could do it one of two ways typically. So typically, a third party can own it, but they've got to sell the power back to Littleton Electric Light at a price that's favorable, of course, to them, which if I was them, I would be the same way. Because it's their territory, it's their franchise per se.
It's their monopoly.
Right, it's their monopoly. So Westfield Gas and Electric was kind of the same thing. But each municipal light department has their own little quirks. And some are, you know, aggressive and restrictive, and then others are fairly open and easy to work with, or I should say easier to work
Lenient.
with. So you have to find out kind of what's their structure and how it works, and then say, okay, is this going to be restrictive? Is it going to be economical? Because, you know, there's one back in Western Mass, and I won't name, but their philosophy is, well, that's great, but our price is so cheap, you know, and they do have fairly cheap rates, but it hurts the rest of the community because very few private companies are going to go in there and build renewable energy because they can't make the numbers work. But if the city wanted to, then the city could say, okay, we'll fund our own projects, because at the end of the day, even if their ROI is 10 or 15 years, at the end, we now have free electricity. So it's just a matter of what the municipal light department wants to allow you to do. But most of them are pretty good, and you guys do have some solar projects in town. So, and if that private institution, that lumberyard or whatever, wants to do a battery storage, I'm going on a limb to say that they're somewhat friendly.
Oh, no,
The town owns, the light department owns that property. We just call it Parley Lumber because.
Oh, okay, that's what it was.
Yeah, sorry.
I shouldn't have assumed,
Yeah, no.
my fault.
No, they bought it to use as a battery storage
Okay,
for batteries.
okay, so they're doing it on their own, so that's, okay, that's different then. So disregard what I just said.
So how do you find out about what all the 25.5% grants and what there are and how you can apply for them and?
Under that, you could just easily Google, you know, Inflation Reduction Act and in their municipal, I mean, I can certainly send some links over to Jim and do that. That's not, you know, that's not very difficult to.
Yeah, I tried to read them. They're extremely
Yeah.
obtuse.
Yeah, there are. I mean, you know, most good CPA firms will know all this. So you could venture, you know, a call to your CPA and just say, hey, have you done any of this? Could you do a little bit of research? And they should be able to pull that up. Again, I can find the link and send it off to Jim and start there and say, okay, is this viable? But before I would go down that path, I would recommend you guys have a meeting of the minds with the Littleton Electric Light Department first. Is because if it is restrictive, then, you know, you get an answer to a maybe or a no real quickly. If it's yes, then the more research, the better you're going to be. But if it's, well, we can only take so much, because they have long-term contracts. So they might have 5, 10, 20-year contracts that they're buying power for, so they can only allow so much generation in their territory because they're going to be paying penalties for not being able to buy that energy that they're currently contracted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So again, they'll know exactly what those numbers are, and they can tell you how much or how little, you know, more solar could come into town. But the sooner you do that, the better, because they might have a decent amount of capacity, and then some private institution sort of beats you to the punch and comes in and says, hey, we'll build a megawatt in Littleton Electric Light, you buy it all from us, and then now you guys can't get the 1,000,000 kilowatt hours because a private institution kind of got in front of you.
So I'm going to ask you to rewind. You said there were two ways. I got one way, which is to have third-party owner sell back to the municipal light department. But what was the second way?
So you
Okay.
being the institution to own that, and in essence, you're selling yourself the power.
So the town would finance the build and
Yeah.
own the panels or?
Yep. Could go out for bonding. So let's just say it was a million. So we'll just use that. If you're using 3 million kilowatt hours, that's roughly 2 megawatts. And let's just say on average it's $2 a watt to develop. Let's say you could put it on your landfill and you wouldn't have any issues with it. So that's $4 million. You go out to bond for $4 million, and if you get the 25%, you get $1 million now back. So now it's a $3 million payback. And if you had a private partner with you, that could take that 5-year accelerated depreciation from it. Now there could be that revenue share. So they would get another $1 million over that 5 years. So there could be some sort of split. And then at some point, you buy them out for some nominal, again, it follows the IRS rules. So you have to really file that. Otherwise, there's a clawback provision in there. You don't do something right, the IRS is going to get their money. So again, CPAs can figure this out. It's way above my pay grade. So I know enough to be dumb and dangerous at times, and this is one of them. So, but it's just, they're done all the time, and I know lots of great solar developers that love doing private-public partnerships, because they're in it for the right reason, not to say the other guys aren't in it for the right reason, but a lot of solar developers are in it because of the money, and there's lots of money in it. But these guys really want to do the right thing, and so they would love to partner with nonprofits, so there's plenty of them out there.
One of the things that, which we hadn't talked about, so we're gonna throw a question at you. I'm gonna throw a question at you that the select board is very concerned, as obviously some of the comments in regards to the money that's out there and everything. One of the conversations we're having at this point is, securing a full-time grants person for sustainability. Do you have any, in your travels, do you have any, or do we go the route of having a consultant? Or is it a full-time grants person for sustainability? Do you have any opinion one way or the other on that?
I've seen both sides, Jim. Typically in bigger cities, you would get more of a full-time position. And sometimes there's grants out there to pay that position too, which is great. Smaller communities, I would say probably the consultant route is getting somebody who does, and I don't do that. So getting somebody certainly could find some suggestions for you. But I don't do that, but finding somebody who does that for a living and to hire them on a case-by-case basis to say, hey, here's what we're trying to accomplish, what would sort of your fee structure be, and what sort of your success levels. We want to pay you 5 or 10 or 20 grand, and you're not really getting success. Can we talk to some of your clients? And if you see that they've gotten some really good results, then I would say probably start there. Because in a smaller community, there's only so much, sustainability and, energy consumption reductions and new projects you can realize. You could realize. So you're going to spend good money chasing not so good money.
After a certain point.
Right, absolutely. First couple of years, they might
Yeah.
be worth their weight in gold.
Yeah.
But after that, it's like, okay, and I don't know what somebody like that would be paid, but they probably would make a pretty good income, and then, benefits from the town and all that added onto it, that could be substantial, and if they're not getting, and then you hate to see somebody have to get laid off. That's, you'd hate to see that. So I would say starting that consultant route, Jim, would be the better. And then if they say, hey, you got a massive opportunity to do a lot of work, and I think you guys have already done, a decent amount of energy reductions. I mean, you're a green community. I'm from Agawam. We're a green community. I was on the energy committee, so we've reduced our energy load over 25%, and we're 26,000 residents, and we don't have a full-time sustainability, coordinator, director. We have a person that's part of their job, but they're not full-time just doing sustainability.
Art, who's writing your green community grants?
Good question. I've not been involved in a while, although I'm helping them work through some solar discussions. I can find out, and that might be a person that you guys could have a conversation with.
Well, I was just wondering if you have a part-time sustainability and a part-time green communities person, if that actually ends up being effectively a full-time person, or how many hours are spent on on this position, if you actually summed it up across maybe it's multiple people working part-time, that adds up to a full-time.
Yeah. I mean, do you guys have an energy committee or commission?
We have a sustainability committee.
You do? Okay. All right. So, I mean, maybe they start the ball moving a little bit, and then figure out by having conversations with other sustainability coordinators or directors in other towns. And again, I can get you our contact person, and it's maybe somebody in town loves sustainability, and that could be part of their job description. Again, I'm just thinking out loud that they might say I could devote 10 hours a week with approval from the department head to say, 10 hours a week, that's fine. And that's all maybe you would need.
We have an opening on the sustainability committee. It doesn't have to be a town resident, does it? Does anybody?
We'll waive it for this one time.
Okay. So
Just gonna have to use Zoom, because I
Yeah, yeah.
come here from Agawam every year.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
that's-
I'm going to stay, overnight with my daughter because there's a big renewable energy solar conference tomorrow and Wednesday. So again, I'll be
Sounds like a
talking to people
blast.
there, so if something comes up,
Cool.
I'll reach back out to Jim and say, hey, Jim, I learned a little bit, I've asked, because I'll take what I learned here tonight, and I'll bounce it off a lot of these, they come from all over the world, will be in Boston for 2 days. So I'll ask them, stuff here and say, hey, what have you done? And there'll be people there tomorrow that will maybe have done something in Littleton. So the chance probably slim to none, but there might be somebody that says, yeah, we did a project in Littleton and they were great to work with, and here's how we got it accomplished. You just never know. But
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Thank you.
I like to help. I like to help people and solve problems.
You've solved many, trust me. Okay.
I've created a few too.
That's,
Jim, you good? Dal, do you have a question?
Just a comment. They're probably running close to 15 years old now, but the Neshoba Tech's got 200 kilowatt sets of panels on the roof where you could probably get some longevity data from we got a rep to them.
Charlie.
There. And those I think are pretty close to 15 years old. So you could just kind of get firsthand data about what the age off is on them.
Appreciate that.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And that brings up a great point. So you guys already have because they're a regional school, right?
yes.
So they have electric wiring? in there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
As-
so
as one of
maybe
the-
you can
yeah.
start getting some of those students
Curriculum.
involved in the sustainability piece,
Yeah.
you know, because that's the future. And so if there was ever a solar project, because we've proposed this on a few projects, is getting the students involved in the actual project. Is when it starts getting built, the students are out on the landfill, they're seeing the project. They can't do a lot of the work, but they're sort of the interns. And so they see the project getting built, they can do a little bit of the labor work, and then they can see, hey, this might be something that I'd really like to do. So that's a great point. I didn't know you guys had a regional school district here. So, and even the teachers, I mean, they might be intrigued enough to do some volunteer work for you on the sustainability committee.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if you know of any, in your paths, or if you know of any of those consultants that we could potentially look at interview, can you forward names, contact information to me, which would be great, that we could, the select board can have a discussion and maybe take next steps to, you know, to generate an individual that we could pay on a consulting basis to provide us with, okay, here's what's available, what would you like, select board, what would you like me to go after? And then pay that person to go after those different things at this point.
Yeah, and there's a couple agencies. Mass Clean Energy Center is one, and then of course Mass Department of Energy Resources. And I know some people there that I can reach out to and say, hey, because you guys do have a municipal light department, there might be, you know, extra funds that could be available. Because typically National Grid and Eversource, you know, there's easy ways to raise money in those territories where sometimes in this way it's not an easy way to raise funds. Because I don't think you guys, light departments aren't a part of what's called the Reggie Fund, and that's from all the energy efficiency money that goes on, you get charged on your bill, every business and every homeowner does. And that's that pool of money, which, you know, equates to, you know, billions of dollars. So that goes back where municipal light departments, I'm pretty sure aren't included in that. So there's maybe other ways that the DOER and the Mass Clean Energy Center says, okay, here's X funds that go to municipal light departments. But again, the powers that be at Littleton, you know, they'll know that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
You're
thanks a
welcome.
lot. This is
Really
great.
It's all great information.
My
Thanks,
pleasure.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Talk soon. Thank you. Okay.
Good stuff. Little known fact, the zip code for Agawam is 01001. Right for a zip code in the United States.
Yeah.
No kidding.
That's a good memory.
Good trivia, right?
That's a great trivia question.
Yeah.
So is there a town-
I'm in a lot of trouble.
Is there a town in Maine that's 00001?
No, that's the first one. 01001 is the first zip code.
Interesting.
Interesting.
100% alphabetical, maybe? I'd go on.
Moving on, thank you, everybody, for that.
Thank you for bringing them in.
And, okay, so we have discussion, now we have a vote to appoint Jonathan Vance to the Economic Development Committee. And as an entrepreneur, Mr. Vance primarily works remotely, has significant flexibility in his schedule, grew up in Massachusetts and lived in Littleton for nearly 2 years, and would like to would like to be able to be part of the Economic Development Commission, and request that appointment.
Was this the last vacancy, or there's?
There's one more.
There's one more, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it's good that we're filling it up.
Yeah.
Move the select board vote to appoint Jonathan M. Vance as a member of the Economic Development Committee for a term with no expiration date.
Second?
Moved by Mark, second by Matthew. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, we have to amend 2024 entertainment license for Four Jacks to add 2 video games. The games specifically are called Buck Hunter and Golden Tee into their entertainment license. And recommend approval of that, please.
Anyone like those games?
I love Golden Tee, actually. I know that one.
Buckland's pretty good too.
Yeah.
Move the select board vote to approve the amendment of the entertainment and automatic amusement license for 4 Jaxie for the calendar year 2024 to add 2 video games.
Second.
Moved by Mark, seconded by Karen. Roughly.
Keeping everybody on their
Yeah,
toes.
there you go, I like it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. 4-0. Thank you very much. Just if I could, Jim, before you go there.
Yes, sir.
Can we just let Mr. Vance know through, maybe Lisa can reach out or something, just, he needs to go to the town clerk and get sworn in and.
Absolutely. Thank you. And item F, we have request the vote to open the May 7th, 2024 annual town meeting warrant.
So just quickly for the board, that you'd be looking to begin to consider town meeting warrant articles at your meeting on February 26th and March 11th, and then
24th.
20.
24th, February 24th and March 11th.
What's the choice?
It's, yeah, actually, that we have that wrong. It's the 20.
Okay.
Yeah. So, so just that, so you'd be beginning to entertain that, and as we go through, again, the town meeting is on May 7th, and the election is May 11th. So this basically kicks this process off and opens it up for citizen petitions to be submitted to the town clerk.
When is the date for citizens petitions?
Well, this opens it up, and then basically we closed for the motion. We're closing the warrant on Monday, March 25th.
And that's when, so that's the final date for
That's the
citizens?
final date,
Okay.
yes.
It's not before that. That was my question. Okay.
Except for zoning.
Well, that,
Doesn't
yeah,
that have an earlier date, or no?
right. So this is the.
Oh, never mind, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. All good.
Move the select board vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 39, Section 10, and Town Code, Section 41-1, to open the warrant for Monday, May 7th, 2024 annual town meeting forthwith, and to close said warrant on Monday, March 25th, 2024 at noon. Said town meeting to be held in the Charles Forbes K Gymnasium, Littleton Middle School, 55 Russell Street, Littleton.
Second.
Moved by Mark, seconded by Karen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It says a roll call vote, and then,
Oh,
And this one, please.
Mark?
aye.
Matthew?
aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Chair's in favor. 4-0. Thank you.
Before we move on, if I can just finish off, just want to hit some highlights, or would you like me to wait till the end from the department head meeting? There's 4 or 5 highlights just to.
You got the floor.
Oh, thank you. 63 abatements have been filed, and I forget the millions of dollars in the figure that the abatements they've been filed. But it's multi-million dollars worth have been filed, over 63 abatements.
Most of which are commercial?
The 5 major businesses have absolutely, they all filed, everyone there, and a tremendous amount of, a lot of residential individuals. The library staff, Sam had expressed that they are doing de-escalation training for the staff because of some particular patrons that they just need to understand of uncertain limitations that some patrons have, that how to handle that and de-escalate anything. They just want to doing the right thing, and I commend Sam for doing that. As you know, the DPW director is well prepared for his team for the event coming on. Council on Aging, they've got 71 Meals on Wheels clients, and they are. Today, they did outreach and calling, making sure their clients, making sure they have everything ready for the storm. They've got milk, water, that everything's okay there. And today, because Meals on Wheels will not be delivered tomorrow, that they'll deliver 2 today for them. And last two things, the town clerk, 1,350 early voting cards have been sent out. And the Attorney General has approved the November 2023 town meeting articles. That's it. Thank you.
Ooh, great. You're there, right?
The last piece is
Presidential.
the election warrant.
Presidential primary? I don't think there's any discussion with this, is there?
I just want to let it be known that I'm going to run for state committee woman. That's one of the offices, so.
Good luck.
You need signatures?
I find that, I'm entertained by that. I'm sorry.
Move the select board vote to approve and sign the election warrant for the March 5th, 2024 presidential primary.
Second.
Moved by Mark, seconded by Matthew. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you. Matthew, what about the minutes?
Nothing for me.
Any red ink?
They're good.
Motion?
Move the select board vote to approve the meeting minutes from the select board meeting on January 22nd, 2024, and the joint select board finance committee meetings on January 23rd, 2024, and January 29th, 2024.
Second?
Moved by Mark, seconded by Matthew. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's 4-0. Thank you very much. Do we have anything before we take a motion for adjournment?
No, sir.
Do we want to note the time?
Motion to adjourn.
Time is 8:13.
Motions are made.
Second?
Made by Matthew, seconded by Karen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Have a great night, Littleton. Thank you very much.
Stay
Until the
warm.
next meeting is
Stay dry.